This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast where we take a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we're celebrating the track and field teams making the most of their opportunities at the Tufts Final Qualifying Meet, with Bates sending 11 to the NCAA Championships after entering last week with only 2 Bobcats assured of a berth. Plus, the women's tennis team is off to a strong start, and we talk with our 2 squash senior captains to wrap up the season and their careers. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The men's lacrosse team got the week off to a strong start with a 14-4 win over Keene State on Wednesday. Junior Jack Scribner scored 5 goals, and junior Chris Costello won 13 of 15 faceoffs for Bates. But maybe more importantly, the game marked the return of preseason first-team All-American Matt Lastava to the lineup. Head coach Peter Lasagna talked about Lastava's return and more right after the game.
It was just really fun to have him out there.
Yeah.
It just energized, I think, all of us. And yeah, I believe he got a point on his first touch. So that's fitting.
And then, obviously, a strong defensive effort. The defense forced a lot of turnovers, it looked like. What did you see from them?
Yeah, we thought we matched up well. I thought we played really good on-ball defense. I thought we had some of the greatest slide and recovery rotations maybe that we've had so far this year. And then we did something we haven't done that often, which is we had a 10-man ride for a lot of the game. When you hear us screaming 91, that's what we're talking about. And we finally had the courage to commit to it, and we got the ball back a lot, which was really fun. And a lot of that is on the defense.
For those who don't know, 10-man ride.
10-man ride, so the goalie comes out.
Yep.
So everybody's got somebody to cover. So there shouldn't be anybody open. That's the goal. And then you just try to double team. You try to double team over the midfield line every time that you can. And we did a really nice job of it.
Excellent. Any individuals stand out?
I thought Jack Scribner had a really strong game again. I thought he dodged really hard. Will Stern, he earned time. He was on the wing of the faceoffs a lot and did a really nice job. Chris Costello, I thought, might have been the player of the game just because he won us so many possessions. But it was really a team win. A lot of people did well. Curtis Napton looked like a, first or second team All-American out there today. I just thought he looked like the strongest, toughest, you're not going to stop me from getting where I want to guy.
The men's lacrosse team fell 16-11 to Trinity on Saturday, and the women's lacrosse team dropped a heartbreaker by a score of 12-11 on the road to the Bantams. They will both have probably already played their Tuesday games against Western New England and Southern Maine, respectively, by the time you've listened to this podcast. Entering Saturday's last chance meet at Tufts, the Bates track and field teams knew that junior captain John Rex and senior captain Brendan Donahue were headed to the NCAA Championships in the weight throw and the heptathlon, respectively. But a number of other Bobcats were on the outside looking in. And they all delivered in a big way. Starting with the women's 4x400 relay, setting a Bates flat track record, sending 4 Bobcats to NCAAs. But Bates wasn't done. Junior captain Amanda Kaufman, a member of the 4x400 relay team, qualified for NCAAs in a second event at Tufts with a new personal record in the 60-meter hurdles, racing to the finish in 8.86 seconds. And then 2 more Bobcats qualified for nationals, as sophomore Elise Lambert led all 12 competitors in the 800 meters with her season best time of 2 minutes, 14.88 seconds. And junior Vanessa Paolella set a PR in the mile in 5 minutes, 2.66 seconds, moving her into 6th place on Bates' all-time performance list. We'll get to the men in a moment, but after entering the day with no women assured of a spot, 6 qualified. Head coach Jay Hartshorn recaps the last chance meet.
I feel like the only thing we've ever gotten out of a last chance meet before this was distance medley relay. And that's a little bit of a different thing because everybody knows you have to do it that weekend, just the way the schedules are set up. So you plan your whole season around that one weight race if you're trying to get a distance medley. In other events, we've never really been able to make much happen on this weekend.
But this year, everything happened. Vanessa Paolella, our female Bobcat of the week, in the mile run, PR for her. I mean, and I know she went last year in the DMR, but it's cool to see her get qualified in an individual event, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that was like sort of on our radar for a long time. Last year, once we knew we had a really good DMR, she really got into that 1200 leg, and we had to plan her season around that more. And then even last weekend at New England Division 3s, same thing. She ran a 1200 because I just wanted to see her there to see if we could do a DMR, and then came back in the 1000. But she's sort of had this goal for a while, and getting a lot closer to 5 has felt pretty obtainable for a while. So it was nice. She carried a lot of momentum from Division 3s, and I think that really helped her. So it was nice to see her do that. And I knew 502 would basically go based off of past years and stuff. So that was exciting.
Excellent. And then Amanda Coffin, I talked to her last week. She mentioned how, got to do the 4x4 and the 60-meter hurdles, but a PR there on the 60-meter hurdles, right? She continues to really improve each week, it seems like.
Yeah, so at D3s, she ran like a little bit of a PR. Middlebury's track, I would say, is like more of a practice track than a competition track. Your competition tracks, you like them to be a little bit harder. They're just faster that way. And then one of her races last week, she had a bad start. So it just kind of felt like, it's all fine, but it didn't really feel like what it needs to feel like. So going in this week, it was last year, she did not have a good last chance meet. She actually false started, but they didn't call it. But like she thought she false started, so she kind of ran terribly. It was just like, so there was a little bit. I know she had to have been thinking about that a little bit, knowing like, okay, last year when it was like my last chance, it did not go well. So when she ran 8:86 in the trials, I was like, okay, this is done. This is great. And then a lot of people at that point would say, well, don't risk it, don't run the finals. But she had to run the finals because we were running a relay later. So you can't just like bow out of one event and then run another. And so she ran the finals. But the exciting thing about that is that she went back and ran the same time again. So it's like, it wasn't just a fluke. Like I did it twice in a day. Lots of times your second race is faster. So even the fact that she ran 8:86 on a first race is really exciting because most of the time you're going to like PR the second race. So for her to like come back and match that, the second race was really great.
Well, let's talk about the relay, the 4x4 headed to nationals. Obviously, different years you have different relays that have possibilities. Last year, the DMR got second in the country. I was like, Amanda, why aren't we the DMR? She's like, well, Aiden Eichhoff graduated. I'm like, oh, yeah, good point. So what made this year the 4x4 the fit to try to get them to NCAA?
We could have done both, but with a lot of the same personnel. Yeah. And a lot of schools are going to nationals with both relays that run back-to-back with a lot of same personnel. So they're going to have to, like, sub people in and out. So we ran a DMR early and felt happy with the time, but once this relay went and had a really good shot, it just made a lot more sense to be like, let's make this happen. And especially because you're pulling in kids that wouldn't be at NCAAs. And we were pretty sure Elise could make it in an 8, hoping Vanessa could make it. There was another freshman, Jordan, who honestly wasn't that far away. She just kind of ran out of steam a little bit. So it felt like there was going to be some opportunities, but we wouldn't have had this opportunity. And actually, we qualified so Paige Rabb was on the relay her freshman year. Yeah. And we didn't declare, which nobody ever does that. But I just felt like we couldn't put together 2 really good relays. We just didn't have the legs because we were pulling people out at that point that were kind of necessary legs. And so it feels nice to be going. We went that outdoor in the 4x4, but to make it indoor and to pull in people have never been to nationals before is exciting. Yeah,
and those two, Megan Seymour and Rebecca Willis, right?
Yep, those are both first-timers. And I don't think, Becca was like a little bit, she was banged up a lot last year, so a little bit would get in the 4x4, but not like always as like the A person or the person to go. But she ran really, really fast in our time trial this year. So that was really great. And then last year, Megan was abroad in the first semester. So by second semester, towards the end, she's a 400 hurdler. She was doing really well. Actually, what's kind of cool is all those women are 400 hurdlers. Okay. So every single person on the 4x4 is a 400 hurdler, which 400 hurdlers make really good 4x4 legs. That's just like a natural thing that they would also do. But Megan had a really, really good fall, and I know Curtis was just like talking about it all year. Like Megan had such a good fall, she's doing really well. And what's exciting is that she likes to anchor the relay, which there's not always a lot of people that like to anchor the relay. Our relay's really even. They're all could run the exact same split. But this week, so last week when she anchored, she went on a little bit too hard, and we got passed by Amherst just at the line. And this week, you could just tell, she's like, this can't happen again. And she went out like a little bit more conservatively, definitely had a better second lap. There was like a point where the Amherst woman got really, really close to her, and then Megan was able to pull away in just the last couple meters, and it was really all like, no, it's just not happening. Like, she's like, this is not going to happen. And there was, Amherst ended up being like not even a half a second behind us, a couple tenths behind us. So we thought we potentially could be the 12th team, and they'd be 13. There was one team that slipped in between us, so they missed it by 2. But it was like during the race, as coaches, we felt whoever wins between us and Amherst, like, is going to be the person who goes. And Middlebury ended up beating us, but we knew that they could too, just based off of paper and what else had been there. So relays are tricky. People don't run relays until the end of the year, so you could be sitting really, really good, and then if you don't run it and bring it and run faster, then you're absolutely on the outside.
I know for the men, Bart Russ was truly on the bubble. Were there any bubble ones for the women, or did you really know right after the meet that you were bringing those 6 in national?
Yeah, we were pretty sure, because even Vanessa, so she was like our lowest. But that's an event you always go pretty deep in, because the milers are also 800 runners, 3K runners. They run the DMR and that kind of stuff. So being 3 out, 23 or whatever she was, and we already knew one wasn't declaring just from someone saying, hey, I'm not declaring, standing right there. Right. The one that really made us sweat it was about an hour and a half until the Wartburg meet happened. And like, that's where all the best teams in the country were. So we knew we could only get passed by 4 at that meet. And we had passed one school with ours. We'd passed, I think, more than one, but it ended up we knew we could only have 4, and the team we passed was running, and they didn't repass us, by, again, like point something, very, very small.
Yeah. How cool is it to have such a big group going? I mean, 6 women and 5 men.
Yeah, that's really fun. It's kind of crazy. Last time we had a big group when we went to North Carolina, and we actually ended up at 2 different hotels because we didn't know we were going to have that many kids. So this time I looked, I was like, I basically booked enough hotel rooms, so we're not at 2 different properties. So that part, though, I'll really enjoy. Like, it's a much, much more fun experience to all go together. And I mean, going into this meet, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this really could be me and like somebody going to nationals. Like, it was nothing at the start of the day, with kind of feeling confident that someone's going to make something happen. But the fact that all of them made something happen will make like their time like much more enjoyable than just being with me, Well, and then the men like Johnny, but that was Johnny's experience last year. He was solo with a big group of women, but he's great to travel with, and I think he enjoyed it. But I'm sure he will equally enjoy having a big group of men there as well. And
then tell us about the track you're competing on. How familiar are you with it?
So we were there a couple years ago. It's a funny track only because it's literally was like a warehouse was retrofitted to put in a track. Okay. So it has some funny poles in it and stuff. But the people who made it, I think they were Wake Forest alums. That's where Wake Forest is. So it's Wake Forest colors. It's just people down there who like love track, basically made their own track, and they put on track meets. There's not a lot of indoor tracks in that part of the country. They love to host nationals, so they're really like athlete and coach and meet friendly at that meet, at that facility, and they have like a cool little warm up track next to it. But you're not on a college campus. You're kind of in like an industrial area, and you're like, here's your track, but it'll be warmer down there. The banquet, I think, is at where Wake Forest plays football, so that might be interesting. It's just fun to like be in other places and see how they mix it up. But we're not on any kind of like campus. You're just sort of like, you're here. Here's a track.
Well, before we go, any other thoughts on Tufts and what took place this past weekend?
I guess the only thing we didn't mention, too, was that Lauren Barabee, broke our school record in the pole vault, and so that was really great. She just had some really good jumps. And actually, we brought 3 pole vaulters it's easier for them to pole vault inside than it is at the beginning of the April, May,
Sure.
So for that group, if they're doing well, it makes sense to kind of come down. And we felt like all of them had another height in them. So Ashley, I think, had her best jump of the season, which was really great, and got us some poles she hadn't. And then both Lauren and Lily were jumping at the 11.5. Lauren made it on a really nice jump, and then had some really good jumps. So that's the other thing. So then you jump at 11.5, and she was then jumping in 11.9 or 10, maybe even 11.11. And to have good jumps at that height is really important. That once you clear one that you haven't cleared, then you need to get some good ones at the other one. So she did a really good job of that. So I think that will also give us some good momentum in those events as we go.
Yeah, and all three of them are sophomores, is that right?
No,
or two of them are?
Two of them.
Two of them, yes.
So yeah, Lauren and Lily actually live together, and I think are both math majors too. And then Ashley's a senior.
Okay.
So that's nice because for a while she was kind of like our only female pole vaulter. So last year she got two friends, and it's worked out really well.
Yeah, so those two, Lauren and Lily, moving on up, it seems like, each year. So
yeah, and that's the thing, is if you can just keep progressing by a couple inches, they're really only one height away from being at the national conversation, which would be good. They're getting expensive because as you get better, you have to buy more poles, so which is really fun, But then all of a sudden, it's like, thank goodness for FBA, because we're using it on poles this year. Yeah.
So we'll watch out for them moving down the road. But Jay Hartshorn, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
On the men's side, 3 more Bobcats made the jump into nationals with personal record performances. Junior Ryan Nealis led all 15 competitors in the mile, finishing in a time of 4 minutes, 11.99 seconds, moving to 10th place on Bates' all-time performance list in the event. Senior Justin Levine ran a blazing fast 5,000 meters at 14 minutes, 42.51 seconds, moving to 9th place on Bates' all-time performance list. And sophomore Bart Rust was third among 16 runners in the 3,000 meters in a time of 8 minutes, 30.61 seconds, which moves him into 7th place on the team's all-time performance list. Head coach Al Fereshetian recaps the weekend from the men's side with 5 men and 6 women now headed to NCAAs. Coach Fresh, let's start with the fact that last week I talked to John Rex, and he said, best case scenario, we'd get Nealis, we'd get Russ, we'd get Levine to join me and Brendan, and that's exactly what happened. What kind of meet was that for you, watching those guys go out and do those huge performances?
Yeah, it was fabulous. The kids really competed tremendously. We knew they had a legitimate shot going in. We had talked about it. We talked about what they were going to need to do, and what they needed to do was very realistic, and I think they went in very confident and aggressive. They took advantage of it. Tufts did a phenomenal job of helping to set some of those races up with pacers and those types of things early in the race, and it really allowed them to focus on what they needed to really do, and that was close out the race and finish strong, and they got it done. So.
Of all the Tufts last chance meets you've been to through your career, is this one of the more memorable ones?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've been to last chance meets for nearly 40 years now, and over that period of time, I would say on average, you go in, if you got 5 guys that have a legitimate shot, maybe 1 guy makes it. So the odds and the percentages usually don't work out that way, but we went in with 3 shots and we came out with 3 winners, so it was fantastic.
It's got to be a special thing for the senior there among that crew, Justin Levine, to go to nationals for, I think, the first time in his track and field career. He's been with the cross-country team, but it's got to be extra special for him, right?
Yeah, it really is, and he has really been committed and done some tremendous things throughout the course of the year. He's never doubted himself and always pushed himself and challenged himself, and that he had a great race at the New England Division III Championships, but that track wasn't as fast. The race wasn't set up to be fast. He had to do a lot of the work to make that race happen, but he competed tough as nails, and I knew that if he was in an environment where he could get a little bit of help and support, throughout the first part of the race, that he'd have a legitimate shot, and he took full advantage of it.
And then Nealis, the 3rd seed in the mile, because, he wasn't 3rd in the country going in, but some people dropped out, and so that's got to be a great setup for him coming in.
Yeah, it really is. I think, there'll be prelims and finals in the mile, so he'll have to run prelims on Friday, come back and hopefully qualify and run the race on Saturday. But you look at the field, and truly, I believe he can run with anybody out there. And because a lot of times these national races, particularly in these events, tend to be a little bit more tactical. And he's a guy that can close, and he can close with anybody. So what he's going to have to work on is trying to obviously get qualified on Friday for the finals on Saturday. I suspect those times will be relatively slow, so it will be one of those things he's just got to be in a good position and respond, and then ultimately be ready to go for that final on Saturday.
And then Bart Russ was the guy who was really on the bubble, turned in a great performance in his event, the 3,000, but you had to wait, right? I mean, till Sunday. What was that like, hitting refresh, I guess, on the browser? How did that go?
Yeah, it was really fun because we actually were having our end of the season breakup event for track and field, which we typically do the week after nationals, but for various reasons we needed to schedule it ahead, and I thought it would be a good way to kind of send off the guys that had qualified and do that type of thing. But the announcement was scheduled to come out at 7 p.m. and our event was going from 6 to 8. So I had Coach Johnson refreshing constantly, and I told him, I gave him carte blanche to barge in and interrupt whatever was going if we got the news. And sure enough, right at 7 o'clock, we got the news that he was in, and it couldn't have made the night the night was great, but it just made that night even that much more special. And you could just feel the whole team, the pride of the whole team, and the excitement that they had for him getting that opportunity.
And then Brendan Donahue and John Rex did not have to go to the Last Chance Meet. They already knew they were in their respective events. They went to outdoor nationals together last year. What do you think those two have learned from their previous national experience they're going to apply this year? Because I know John's mentioned to me that he's still waiting for that big performance on the national stage.
Yeah, and they're both ready to go. They've done a fabulous job getting ready. I'm looking forward to seeing some great things out of them. I know that they've got a lot invested, but I think what they learned last year was they had learned how to channel that energy and that emotion. And a lot of times you get to a national meet and you get so emotional that it almost prevents you from being able to do what you can do. What we've really tried to work on understanding and figuring out is the fact that those emotions are good. Those emotions will help you perform. You've just got to put yourself in a position where you can allow that to come through and not let it be a block to you. And I think Johnny's demonstrated that already with amazing performances at the State of Maine meet this year, very emotional meet for us. Tremendous, incredible performance at the New England Division III Championships, where he came out of nowhere and ended up winning the shot put after only competing one other time throughout the course of the season. To be a New England champion, it's a highly competitive event. That was fabulous, and he's learned how to channel those emotions. And we gave him last week off, and I think that's going to help him out and kind of refocus his energy and his emotion, going in. And Brendan was on his way to a great performance last year, and then unfortunately tripped and fell on the hurdles, partly because he was running faster than he's ever run before in his life. It was unfortunate, but it wasn't an indication of what he was capable of doing. I really believe that had he been able to get through that race, he might have had a good chance to be on that podium and been an All-American last year. This year, the HEP is great experience for him. I think he's going to have a great chance to be incredibly competitive. I don't doubt him in any regard. And the bottom line is, I think the experience he had last year is going to make him that much hungrier.
And then how about the big group, 5 men, but also 6 women going? I mean, this is one of the bigger groups in recent years, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fabulous. And everything the men did at Tufts on Saturday, the women did as well. And it was really exciting. I mean, there was chemistry there. I mean, people are probably scratching their heads saying, how did Bates do that? Every event we were in, we had kids going to the front or performing at levels that they never performed at before. And so, I don't want to take it for granted, but it was a great day to be a Bobcat.
You've heard from the coaches. Now let's chat with our Bobcats of the week. Junior Vanessa Paolella's PR in the mile came at the perfect time. She hadn't been happy with her running so far this winter, but that all changed Saturday, and now she's headed to NCAAs. And she is our female Bobcat of the week.
Yeah, there was a lot of uncertainty going into it. We had a lot of great athletes who we knew really could do well if they had a good race, and it did happen, which was really cool. Me personally, I really didn't consider myself one of those people. I haven't really been running particularly well this season, in my opinion, except for last week. And so I went into this race thinking that I'd just really like to PR. I'd really just like to run a little bit faster than the 5:08 I had last year. And so I kind of went into it with that mindset. And like, if I qualified, that would be great, but a little bit of a stretch.
And you did qualify, though. When did you find out for sure you were? Oh, I mean, I know they announced it Sunday, but it sounds like they were fairly confident afterwards that you were going to make it.
I got some pretty strong confirmation from the coaches. They said it was the better side of the line, if that makes any sense. And then the list was updated later that night, and I was number 24, and 20 runners go. So it was really a solid bet because there's 3 other major events that usually draws from that same list. And so like that split competition there kind of made 24 a really good bet.
And then last year you went to nationals, right, with the DMR?
Yeah, last year I ran the 1,200 meter leg of the DMR, and that was certainly a little bit of like a different vibe in the way that it was the 4 of us like really trying super hard to make it, and we did. It was just so cool. But now I'm kind of just in this feeling of surprise of like, oh, I'm going racing my own race this time. And that's kind of a different feeling for sure.
Yeah, what is that difference between, an individual race like this, the mile, where you're all out there by yourself, and the DMR where you got 3 teammates with you there?
If I do really well or if I do really bad, it's on me. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, again, that's kind of freeing to know that I'm not affecting others. But in other times, it's also just like, yeah, it's only me out there. And it comes down to like I don't have people to pick up time at the end. And like a relay. It's definitely different.
Yeah.
In a way, a little bit less stressful. If I don't do well, I'm not dragging other people down with me.
And for you, I mean, because the DMR team was ranked so high, and for you, if you're able to move up there, I mean, it's all good things that can happen, right? In terms of nothing disappointing in terms of the rankings, I suppose, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's another component of it. Like you said, is that like for me, I was kind of on the line of will I qualify, and now I'm seated at 13, which is. Kind of also on the edge because everyone's so close in time that it's only like a second or 2 difference really between a lot of the people around me. So if I have a good race on Friday, I can make finals on Saturday. And if I don't, that's that.
Big contingent going to nationals for both the women and the men. Mm-hmm. How cool is that? I mean, last year was a fairly big contingent of women. I think it was just John Rex on the men's side. Now it's like 11 people.
Johnny does really well with us, though. We made it work. Yeah. But no, it's definitely going to be a different vibe for sure. Like it's a couple of the same people, but just so many also new faces that'll be a part of like the nationals team, which is so exciting. It'll definitely be interesting because last year we had like a very cozy vibe. We had an Airbnb that we all kind of shared together, and we're doing work at like the dining room table. And I guess we're going to see what happens this year because we just have so many people. But that just makes it really exciting. Because Friday night, we're going to just have race after race of people, and that's just going to be super cool to see.
At Tufts, the last chance to meet, I've talked to Amanda Kaufman about this, but the vibe is very stressful. That's what she said. Is the Tufts it is people's last chance. How did you feel at the meet? I mean, what was it like watching your teammates as well? I mean, because obviously they all handled it really well also.
Clarification, did you just mean Tufts?
Yeah, sorry, the Tufts last chance meet.
Yeah.
I went back. So
sorry.
I'm talking to Amanda about Tufts in terms of like, the environment there, it can be stressful because it's people's last chance to qualify.
It can be stressful, but for her, she was so close. It was like very much to the gun. Like again, for me, it wasn't as bad because it was actually I would say it was a really good environment, at least for me personally, because you have some really strong, some really fast runners, but the heats aren't quite as like gigantic or loaded as they might be in other meets. And there's also the emphasis on getting a fast time, which is really important. So people will actually go out with the intention of running fast, whereas at other meets like championship meets like NESCACs or Division 3s, people sometimes will kind of sit on leaders, or they'll try to go for placement and like surge at the end to get that placement rather than going for the fast time. So in that way it was kind of fun because I was just able to go with the flow of the race.
Yeah, certainly. And then here at Bates, you do more than obviously track and field and whatnot. You are also the managing editor of the Bates Student, soon to be editor-in-chief, you tell me. What's that experience been like for you? And when did you start getting interested in journalism?
It's been really great. So I actually came into Bates not intending at all to get involved in the newspaper. I had done a little bit for a few years in my high school, and I really enjoyed it. But I really wanted to just focus on my academics and on running. And one of my fellow teammates, Sarah Rothman, was the sports editor at the time, and I just got drawn into it from her, and it's just been kind of a crazy ride since. A lot of late nights in the office and a lot of really great times with the people I work with. And it's just been a really great experience, and it's been so cool to learn about Bates a little more in depth than I think I would have as a student.
How have you been able to, because I often ask, student athletes balancing athletics and academics. You're balancing athletics always being in season, by the way, for you. The newspaper plus your academics on top of that. How has that process gone for you?
It's been really difficult at times. So, like earlier this semester, I was saying like I wasn't racing how I wanted to. And I think a lot of that was just not getting enough sleep and like having too much on my plate. And I kind of made the decision to drop a class and like take a step back, and that's been really helpful. The newspaper, we have our on weeks, we have our off weeks, and the on weeks are always crazy because sometimes Tuesdays end up being workout days, and then it's straight to the newsroom, like grab my dinner and just sit there and work on it for hours, putting everything together with Christina and the other editors. So sometimes it's definitely a juggle. It definitely has its times. But overall, I think the good thing about the newspaper is that I can usually work on it at times when I'm free and I have a little bit of spare time, rather than like at least track and cross country. I have practice time. I have when I need to be there. And so just kind of fitting them together can be tough at times, but isn't necessarily as difficult as it would be for something that was more regularly scheduled.
What's your favorite story that you've worked on so far?
Oh, so does it have to be published?
Oh, you're working on something right now?
I actually was bringing this back up today. Is I've been working for a couple years now on trying to look a little bit more about diversity in athletics and really understanding that relationship between athletes together with their team, and how the makeup of athletics might vary in comparison to like the overall student population. And I'm still not entirely sure yet what the final product of this research, these interviews, a lot of like talking has been, but it's something that I'm really proud of and I'm continuing to work on getting information for.
So a long-term project you've been working on.
A very long-term project. I started at fall of my sophomore year, and it's had some times when I've been like really working at it, and other times where I've just kind of let it slide a bit. So I'm basically hoping that next year, my senior year, I will be able to put together something, and hopefully that'll just be like the big compilation of a lot of work.
Excellent. So you're a junior now, right?
Yes.
Take us back to when you were looking for colleges. What made Bates the place you wanted to go to?
So actually at first I thought Bates was not the place I wanted to go to. I didn't think I wanted to be at an urban campus. I didn't particularly like the brick architecture, which is not a big deal, but and then I kind of got a rejection that set me straight and kind of completely overturned what I was thinking, and I realized that being in Lewiston would be such a great opportunity to actually become kind of part of a community. Bates was small enough that I could really feel at home. I really loved the idea of having one dining hall, and it's been fantastic. Like every night is like family dinner. And a big part of it was also Jay. I never met anyone on the team. Actually, I met one person at admissions, but I'd never met any of the athletes on the team. So Jay and Art were my only references. And out of all the coaches I had visited, she was by far my favorite. And I've definitely really enjoyed working with her. So I can't say that was a bad decision on my part. And
you've adjusted the brick buildings? They're brick.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now I walk around like different New England areas, and like I see the brick, and it feels a lot like home. But I'm from Pennsylvania, where a lot of the older architecture a lot of it can be stone based. And so it was definitely weirdly, it was just a little bit of like a different transition for me.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Well, any other thoughts on NCAA's coming up and what you're most looking forward to?
I am really looking forward to Friday night, or Friday during the day. Like we're just going to have everybody competing on Friday, it seems. Maybe that's a overstatement, but I'm just so excited to see like people who've worked so hard like on my team. Like I see them every day, like just go out there and really like give it what they have, because everyone like everyone worked so hard at Tufts
Yeah.
to make it to nationals, and it's just so cool that this can kind of finally be like, this is it, and we can really just celebrate everything we've worked hard for.
There you go. Vanessa Paolella, our female Bobcat of the week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Junior Ryan Nealis is seeded third in the mile entering nationals, the highest seed of any of the Bobcats going, and he is our male Bobcat of the week.
I think there was just this spirit. We all knew it didn't take the world to change for us to be able to go. We just knew that it was a slight adjustment and that we just had to buy in for all of us. It just being a part, I think just having other people to lean on and know that we could do this together was just such a big force in our performances this weekend.
Yeah, so take me through the mile, a PR for you, right?
Yeah, it was a perfect race.
Yeah.
So we knew going down it was going to be paced by a very good Division III runner last year. Sort of looked into the field a little bit, and there was a lot of good quality runners. And I think, everyone, you go to that last chance meet for one reason, and that's to try and run a fast time.
Yeah.
So the race went out perfect. Usually with the mile, it's a fast pace for not that far of a distance, so there's lots of hustle and jostling usually. But we really calm and relaxed as a group, and we just started clicking off the times that we needed.
You touched on it was paced by a runner from the previous season.
Yeah.
That's not typical at meets, right, to have a pacer like that? So why at Tufts? Just because you are trying to qualify?
Yeah, so the thought process behind the Tufts coaches that put on the meet is, they try to want to make sure that everyone, has the best possible chance of going to nationals. Yeah. And so, if you have a pacer in for about half the race, they take the load off of people, so we can really just focus on nailing that time.
So does it make it easier for you?
I think it helps it helps runners in different ways, and every runner sort of has their own different sort of style. I'm more of a closing speed kind of guy, so my strengths aren't usually taking the race from the gun. I usually like to sit in and then really work the second half. So having someone make sure that first half was fast was really helpful.
So that's what you did this time, is your normal strategy?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was in third place for most of the race, and then moved up to second about halfway through, and then with the last lap to go, I took it. So yeah.
How about being the third seed going to NCAAs? What does that mean to you?
Oh, it's awesome. But I think the reason why it's so awesome is this season has been very up and down for me. I started off. Just sort of not really knowing where I was with running. So to just just be blessed with the opportunity to go to nationals, that's what I'm really focused on. See times I think the split between the first guy and the last guy is we're talking a matter of 2 seconds here. This is really, it really doesn't mean really anything. For the squad that goes to nationals, we're all super everyone has worked super, super hard, and I think, everyone says it, but you go to nationals and you never know what can happen. So right. I'm just happy that I'm going. And
this is your first trip, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, first trip for track.
Yeah, for track, right? Yeah. It's obviously a little bit different from cross country.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's awesome for track. Yeah.
And you touched on what some other stuff you've heard from people who have been before about the environment.
Yeah, so two of the two captains my freshman year, they were actually at the meet nice. This weekend. So they were.
Who were they?
Jack Kiley and Rob Flynn.
Oh, of course. Yes.
So yeah, they were at the meet, and it was just great to share that moment with them, because they were definitely an instrumental part in my my love for collegiate running. So just to have them there and share, and then sort of pick their brains over these. I've been texting them a little bit, and just sort of picking their brains about what you should focus on, what you should enjoy.
And that's such a huge part of the track and field program here, I feel, for the men and the women, is the alums, staying in tune with what's going on right now, right?
Yeah, I think Coach Fresh does an awesome job keeping everyone engaged. Same with Coach Jay on the women's side. We have a Facebook group, and they're always making posts in it. So it's great to, have have everyone, support you and love you and help you and wish you all the best when we go to these types of meets.
Yeah. Have you talked with Johnny Rex? Is he excited to have some other guys going with him to nationals this year?
Yeah, dude. He's very pumped. The five of us said, once we found yesterday, we had our breakup dinner for indoor.
Right.
And we found out halfway through that Bart was going,
Yeah.
and everyone was just ecstatic, just to have another person going. This is the largest squad, I think, that we're sending, covering events-wise on the men's side.
Yeah.
So we're definitely making history for the program, and we're really, really excited to be a part of that.
All right, Ryan Nealis, our male Bobcat of the Week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The women's tennis team won its third straight match on Saturday, 5-4 at Wellesley. The Bobcats are 4-2 on the year and 3-0 against NCAA Division III opponents. Junior Hannah Sweeney teamed with senior captain Lauren Hernandez to win 8-3 at number 2 doubles, and Sweeney followed that up with a 6-1, 6-love victory at number 1 singles.
Yeah, Wellesley's a really strong team. I believe this is the first year, at least in my time here at Bates, that we've played them in a dual match during the spring. But I know that we have had some competition against them in some fall tournaments, some invitationals, and we know they're a tough team. And we came out knowing that they were going to, fight to the very end, and it was definitely a bit of a nail biter, especially at the end. We had a couple matches that were definitely going to dictate the final score. But, those are just the kind of matches that, especially in the beginning of the season, make us tougher mentally going forward for our in-conference matches.
Yeah, after you won at singles there, did you get a chance to watch some of the ones late there?
Yeah, so it was only 3 courts this weekend. So we had our first, first 3 girls go on, and then I was able to watch the next set of matches go on too and support my teammates, which is always great for me. I love playing with, besides the girls as well, but, cheering and being, involved in that way is also a huge part of the team culture. So it was good.
Your doubles partner right now, Lauren Hernandez, how's that going in terms of, you played with her a lot before, right?
Yeah, Lauren and I have had experience together since my freshman year, actually, I believe, now I'm thinking about it. Doubles with us is always kind of constant movement. We always are willing to step in with anyone on the team. But Lauren and I definitely have had a lot of years of experience, and we're comfortable with each other in that way. So it's been going well, yeah.
So this fall you studied abroad in Florence, Italy. Tell us about that experience. What was maybe some of the highlights?
Yeah, Florence is great. I had an awesome experience. I'm so happy that I was able to do that, which is, another benefit of being a student athlete at a school like Bates. They really push for that kind of experience while still allowing to stay academically and athletically on point. So it was great. I played some tennis. They have red clay over there, which was fun. No real type of competition that, no kind of league that I found or anything, but there were some kids in my program who are also collegiate tennis players, so it was fun to get out there and hit with them, and just a totally different experience, but it was really cool.
Interesting. So the different surface, because here it's basically all like the U.S. Open type surfaces, right, in terms of like the hard surface?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, you find clay and grass, but not at the collegiate level,
right,
at least that I've found.
Yeah.
I've grown up playing at some clay and grass club courts in the summer, but other than that, we're pretty much expected to walk onto hard or any type of, multi-purpose kind of court that...
because the Merrill surface is a little different. Right?
Yeah, there's definitely some funkiness.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to be ready for as a team. You kind of show up to these indoor facilities and you don't quite know what you're going to be stepping onto. So it's kind of part of the fun.
Yeah. And what makes clay different? I mean, it's slower, right?
Yeah, it's slower. Yeah. I actually like clay. It would be fun if, in a way, collegiate matches could be played in a way, but it's it's an outdoor kind of thing, so it'd be hard up here in Maine throughout the spring. But it's fun. Yeah, it's a little slower. It's a little grittier. It's definitely a way to change up your game playing a little.
Certainly. So after you came back from Italy, how did you kind of prepare for the spring season?
Yeah, I definitely took a lot of time during the winter break before the start of the second semester to train and get back into kind of that match mode mentality. I have a lot of great resources for that in my area back home, in terms of just like hitting partners and availability to get back fully in the swing of things. So I was really happy with that, and it gave me a little bit of a job over the break too, to kind of, make it a daily goal to each day get a little better and get a little more comfortable back out there. So
Interviewed Haley Washington last week, and she mentioned how the team is really focused on getting the NESCACs right this year. Now it's 8 teams instead of 6, so possible, and the team is ranked right now, I think, top 35 in the country. What's it like to have those expectations this year as a team?
Yeah, it's exciting. We're kind of going into kind of a little bit of a new era when they changed the NESCACs from 6 to 8, which has been something that I know a lot of coaches have been pushing for a long time. And we definitely have a really good chance this year. And we're, working as hard as we can and, making small goals every single day so that we can make that ultimate goal. And I think we know as a team right now that, we're really strong and have that potential. And it's just kind of, making sure that we just keep working hard and never expecting anything, always working towards it.
The baseball team dropped a couple of tight contests to Nichols College on Saturday before bouncing back to split a doubleheader with Endicott on Sunday, winning Game 2 9-3. The victory snapped a 7-game losing streak for the Bobcats. While injuries have been an issue so far, Bates' offense is starting to come alive. A number of Bobcats have impressed at the plate, with senior Giovanni Torres standing out so far through 9 games, with a .364 batting average, a .500 on-base percentage, and his first collegiate home run. Gee, looking at the year so far, it looks like, you're drawing some more walks, you're getting some hits there, and you had your first home run, right? So tell us about what's been working for you at the plate so far.
Yeah, so I've really just kind of been seeing the ball better, just kind of slowing the game down a little bit. I mean, it is my 4th year here at Bates, and my coaches, Coach Deschler, Coach Martin, and now having a new guy, Coach Dex, just been able to pull a lot of information and stuff about hitting together and just about the game, to kind of slow the game down for myself, and it's been kind of working so far. So,
take us through the home run you hit the other day.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was I had 2 strikes on me. I choked up. I think I had like an inch up on the bat, and he just kind of laid a fastball in there, middle up, and just tried to hit it hard somewhere, and maybe the wind helped a little bit, but it got out. So
was it opposite field?
It was. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So the wind was blowing out. It's always nice.
Yeah, it's always nice to get a little help from it.
So I noticed you've played a lot of third base during your time at Bates.
Yeah,
they're mixing some shortstop this year for you. What's that been kind of like? I mean, they're on the same side of the infield, but they're very different positions.
Yeah, totally different positions. But I've been lucky to I played shortstop in high school and been a middle infielder growing up my whole life, and I hadn't really played third until I got to Bates. So third base had kind of been a new thing for me. So going back to shortstop this year has kind of just been like going back to my roots, more instinctual. They're both fun. I like both of them just as much. But it hasn't really been too hard of a transition necessarily, just because I've done it in the past. But getting back into that mindset of being a shortstop is certainly different than playing third. So.
Yeah, and then you're a senior, and Mike Roque, who does the games with me, always mentions how he's your faculty advisor, right, for sociology and everything. So what's that relationship like?
It's honestly pretty awesome to see, someone that you can, talk shop about schoolwork and then talk shop about baseball all over the place, all over campus. Even just to like turn around and see him up there in the booth with you, it really makes you feel, how close of a community and how easy it is to talk about stuff that isn't just business all the time. It really puts a familiar face out there that you can relate and feel comfortable being around.
Got a nice win there against Endicott over the weekend, snapping a little bit of a losing streak. I mean, what is the team feeling like right now? Obviously, there were some injuries, but guys are getting healthy, it sounds like.
Yeah, so we had a couple setbacks earlier in the year, but we recently had 2 pitchers throw this weekend that were, that they were on the reserved list earlier in the year. That looked very strong. I mean, that second game against Endicott really seemed to show that we're turning things around and we're kind of piecing things together, the little things. And, we felt good after that second game. Even though it was a tough start to the weekend, we definitely felt good leaving Endicott after finally piecing some stuff together.
Well, and talking to Coach Martin, mentioned, of the 4 games, 3 of them were right there. In fact, the team showed the ability to rally right offensively in the previous day, right, against Nichols.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that first doubleheader against Nichols was tough. I mean, we played hard. We competed better than we had earlier in the season. And that was where we started to show like signs of what what Bates baseball is really about, and like putting those hits together, timely hits. Now it's really just, playing a full 7 or 9 innings all the way through without mistakes, and, having everyone be on board.
And NESCAC play will be here before you know it. And it seems like Bates, I don't want to say overachieves in NESCAC play, but it took some people by surprise last year, I think, right? Trinity was an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament, and Bates took 2 out of 3. Previous year, Bates had swept Trinity. And so I know you're probably looking forward to that series. And it's every NESCAC game is like Game 7 of the World Series, basically, right? It's a must-win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we kind of flip a switch when we get to our NESCAC, conference play. I don't know for whatever reason, but it does feel like it is like Game 7 of the World Series. Everyone's locked in. The energy is that much more there, and yeah, it's a great time once NESCAC play starts. It's an awesome time,
and because it's good for this early season non-conference games to figure out what kind of team you're going to be. This year's team, 8 home runs already. That's the same amount, I think, as the last 2 years combined.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the power this team is showing?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely showing some pop that I've never seen in the Bates lineup before, and it's it's awesome to see, because it's another tool that we're adding to our team's repertoire. That just makes us that much more dangerous in the long run. In the past, we've been stronger with our pitching, and hitting has kind of lacked a little bit, but now to see that we have bats that can supplement the pitching that we have, I think it shows how dangerous we can actually be.
Yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts on the series coming up at Bard and what you're going to be working on in practice this week? I mean, it's beautiful weather. I don't know if you're able to get on the Leahy Field quite yet, but it is nice conditions outside, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it actually. I mean, the whole game plan changes once we're able to get outside. I don't think we'll be able to get on Leahy this week just because the field will probably be soggy and they might have to do some work on it. But even just being able to get on Garcelon or the JB turf, or even on the turf inside that they just put down in Underhill, it really does change the game as opposed to just being in a tunnel in a cage and seeing the same thing over and over and over again. Now we could actually practice like live situations, more game-like situations, and really simulate what it is to have the unexpectedness of a game thrown at you. So I think, this preparation going into this week is, every week's important, but, now that we could actually be outside consistently, I think we're definitely getting on the page that we need to be.
Sounds good. Giovanni Torres, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
The squash season wrapped up last weekend at individual nationals in Philadelphia. 4 Bobcats went, with first-year Erica Parker and sophomore Jesper Phillips making their individual nationals debuts. But for senior captains Luca Polgar and Graham Bonnell, it marked the final matches of their collegiate careers. Polgar won twice, advancing to the Holloran East semifinals, and Bonnell won once, advancing to the Malloy East quarterfinals. And now, they both join the Bobcast to look back at their collegiate squash careers. Graham, we'll start with you. I mean, for you, what was it like going out there knowing these were kind of your final collegiate squash matches in advance, kind of?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, individual nationals is always a really fun and special tournament. I think a lot of the pressure that's on a lot of the athletes from competing for their teams is off, and you really get to see some incredible squash. I guess it wasn't really in my head of, oh, this is the last time that I'm going to be able to play with a Bates uniform on. But I definitely knew that it was a momentous occasion and sort of the culmination of a lot of hard work.
And Luca, you went up against a bunch of Ivy Leaguers. I think every single match you had was against someone from an Ivy League school.
Oh, right.
That's some stiff competition. I mean, what was it like for you there?
Yeah, it was really tough. It was some of the hardest matches that I've had to play, all season. So I had a lot of fun, and just going back to how it feels to play the last couple of matches. It's kind of bittersweet because you go there knowing that after your second match, after your first match, if you lose, you're done.
Right.
So it's it kind of takes off pressure because there's no, you're not competing for the team and for other people, but that added pressure that it's your last match is potentially it's pretty tough.
Yeah, that first day you've got to win. You've got to win your second match, basically, regardless of the result of the first match, to play the next day, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And Jesper did that on the men's side, right? What was it like watching him in his first debut there?
Yeah, he did. That was great.
Yeah.
So he lost his first match against a strong opponent, but then he was able to bounce back in the afternoon against Alex Waddles of Dickinson. He played a good match. He actually ran his opponent around so much that Alex ended up throwing up,
Oh
I
my
think,
goodness.
in the third game.
Wow.
And kind of a funny story, Jesper could have taken that game just by default because that's the rule if your opponent throws up.
Oh.
But he basically was of the mindset, we flew all the way down to Philly, I want to play. So they docked a point, and then fortunately Jesper won in 3 sets. So it didn't make much of a difference, but yeah, really proud of him. He did well. It was a great debut for him.
I did not know that was a rule in squash. So
Yeah,
I learned
yeah.
something new every
There are a lot of quirky rules, actually.
And then, Luca, looking back on your career here at Bates, I mean, 4-time first-team All-NESCAC. You played, at the number 1 position for most of your career here. What's it been like for you? Was it meeting what you were expecting coming into college, or was it a little bit different, perhaps?
I didn't really know what to expect when I came into college.
Yeah.
When I decided to come to the U.S., I came to a boarding school first just to try out how America is, and I didn't really look at any other school other than Bates. My college application process was basically like a month and a half. So I just didn't research that much, I guess. I didn't know what to expect, but it's been better year after year just because I know what to expect and just getting to know my teammates, getting new people every year. It's been really fun, especially because squash in juniors is an individual sport for most people.
Yeah.
So coming into a team is very, very different, but I would say it's a lot more rewarding.
And your first year here, I believe the team got to compete at the B flight in team nationals, and then now your senior year, the team did again. So that was a nice bookend, right? I suppose.
Yes, it was. That was really fun. Yeah, my first year, we finished, I believe, 15th, and now we finished 16th. So, but both times in the B flight, and the 2 middle years we were in the C flight. We won the C flight.
And then Graham, for you, this senior year obviously started off a little rocky, perhaps, just in general. Just for and Omar Atea was telling me you're the reason the team kind of stuck together. What was that process like, leading everyone?
I mean, I cannot take credit for the team's success. That's very nice of Omar to say. But yeah, I mean, being able to lead this team has been such a privilege. Hearing Luca talk about her expectations versus the reality of 4 years of college squash, for me, what has happened in my 4 years has far exceeded any expectations I've had coming in, whether that's being the leader of the team my senior year or playing number 1. I just didn't expect that stuff to happen. So in a lot of respects, it's really been a dream come true.
Well, first year you were playing, number 7?
Yeah, at the end of the season, I played number 8 on the team. Unfortunately, lost a challenge match against McLeod Abbott. Shout out if you're listening right now. Let's get on court sometime soon.
Right. And then the rise to number 1 was fairly quick after that, kind of. I mean, what was that? Did you kind of realize what was happening as it kind of went along, or all of a sudden you wake up one day and, I have to play the best player on the other team.
Yeah, well, I definitely set goals for myself. Yeah. After my freshman year, I said, at minimum, I'm going to play 2 next year. And I mean, that's not something that I told other people. I think it's important to set goals. I don't think it's helpful to talk about them. But I definitely had the goals of playing 2 and then playing 1. But I guess when I was first looking at Bates and first realizing I might be able to play college squash, that was never in my head.
Well, and when you were first looking at Bates, you were talking off the air, was when Ahmed Abdalkhalik was a senior in college and you were a senior in high school. Was that kind of your introduction to the Bates program, watching him win that individual national championship?
Yeah, that was one of my first experiences, really seeing Bates as one of the best places for squash in the United States, at that point, the world, because there's no college squash outside of the United States. And I mean, it's incredible. Like, Ahmed came and left, but winning that tournament is so incredibly hard. And he did it twice.
Yeah. And Luca, for you, in your first couple years here, Christina Alexova and you were like right there, 1-2, kind of switching off. What was that early competition like, helping you develop your squash game?
Fun story. Christina was one of the reasons that I came to Bates because we were in the same age group in juniors in Europe, so we played a couple of times, and the first time we've ever played, she bageled me. So 11, so she won a game 11-0 off of me.
Was that at Bates?
No, that was at the Czech Junior Open. She said it was because I was wearing the same shoes that she was wearing, and she didn't like that, so she.
That sounds about Christina.
Yes. So we played a couple of more times. That was when I just started doing international tournaments, and then just seeing that she was coming to Bates. I just wanted to see what I could do against her, I guess. And coming in, I was playing too the first semester.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to have her as someone to chase after, in a sense, because she was always so much better than me, especially growing up, that it really pushed me.
And then, Graham, when you were a first year, I think, was Ahmed Hatata a senior at that point? Mm-hmm. So, was he someone you looked up to, or other upperclassmen? Or, Ahmed Hatata, obviously All-American in his own right, but who were some people you were looking up to initially?
Yeah, I definitely looked up to Hatata. He was a stud at Bates. He just won matches, and I think he was the 8th-ranked player in college squash when he graduated. But definitely looked up to Mahmoud Yusri, and I still do.
A fellow senior.
A fellow senior, arguably the most talented person on the team when it comes to swinging a racket. There are certainly some parts of his game that might be lacking, but the talent he has, skill level, work ethic, both on and off the squash court, is something I look up to. But man, I promise you, I find motivation and inspiration from every one of my teammates in a lot of different ways.
And then this year, obviously, a year of transition a little bit with the new head coach, Rye coming in. But you're telling me you knew Rye back when you were in high school.
Yeah.
So what was that? Was like, oh, now he's going to be my coach. It's kind of.
Yeah. It was really cool. One thing that I sort of realized is, when I was in high school, for me, playing squash, I sort of stayed in my shell, didn't really open up when I was training with other people. Squash in the United States is mostly played in country clubs and private schools. I went to public school. My parents couldn't really afford squash lessons. I didn't really fit in with the community that I was sort of a part of. Bates is very different. Most of the team is international, and of the people who are from the U.S., a lot of them are also from public schools, which for me was rare growing up. And being able to have Rye at a program like this, which is so different from Fairfield County.
Yeah.
Not to call out squash players from Fairfield County, but it's just been really cool being able to share that experience with Rye and really be able to be comfortable with who I am as a person and as an athlete in a place where I feel comfortable, which is here at Bates.
Yeah, and Luca, we talked about this, the players from all around the world, and it hasn't changed this year. The first year's coming in from a variety of countries. I know Erica Parker right away, big impact player. What's that been like to see them continue this program?
Yes, it's always great to see other internationals, especially, me being an international. For me, it was very important to be a part of the team where I'm not the only one who is sharing, who has this type of experience, because moving away from home, it's very, very hard. So to be able to have that support from other people who are going through the same stuff, and then being able to be there for some of our teammates who are also not from here, it's incredible. Everyone needs that type of support.
So you're both seniors, so I got to ask, what are your thoughts on, graduation coming up and what's next kind of for both of you? Whoever wants to start.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah.
It's, I'm sad that we have to leave Bates. It became home away from home, but I'm also very excited to see what's next, and I'm sure a lot of us will keep in touch after college, but we're all going to be at different places, so it's going to be a whole new adventure for all of us.
Do you see yourself continue to play squash, whether it be here or back home?
I definitely do in some shape or form.
Yeah.
I definitely want to keep playing just recreationally. I was thinking about maybe doing, mixed doubles if I find a partner or if I live somewhere close to some of my former teammates. But we'll see what happens when we graduate.
How about you, Graham?
Yeah, I'm planning to go straight on to the mixed doubles pro tour with Luca.
There we go.
We're gonna make it happen.
There's a team right there.
I actually think we'd be very good.
So good. We'd have a lot of fun.
And there's some money to make on the pro doubles tour.
Yes.
Somehow. But yeah, I'll be playing squash in some capacity. I'll figure out how exactly, I guess, in the coming months. But I can't wait to see what my fellow seniors are going to be doing. Luca, as well as the 4 other seniors on the men's squash teams, 5 with Jason Canaday, our team manager. All of us really have some bright futures ahead of us, and it's exciting.
Sounds good. Luca Polgar, Graham Bonnell, combined 6 first-team All-District honors between them. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Next time on the Bates Bobcast, we'll recap the NCAA Championships for the skiing and track and field teams. The softball team, as of this episode, is 3-1 on the Bobcats' trip to Florida, with plenty more games to come this week. There's a full slate of games for Bobcat Athletics to recap next week, plus a preview of the NCAA Swimming and Diving Championships with head coach Peter Casares. All that and more next time on the Bates Bobcast.